The transport ship descended through thick clouds, its engines whining as it approached the designated drop zone. Inside the cargo bay, Kaylin stood with her wrists still bound in energy cuffs, watching the desolate planet grow larger through the viewport. Warden Thexus stood beside her, his mandibles clicking with satisfaction. "This is Carveth 9, the Warden announced, his chitinous armor gleaming under the ship's lights. "A primitive world. No technology. No civilization. No rescue. You will spend the remainder of your sentence here, human. 20 cycles of solitude should teach you the value of following protocol." Kaylin said nothing. Her crime had been simple. She had rescued a group of Velcrin cubs from a failing life support system instead of waiting for proper authorization. The bureaucracy had deemed her actions reckless. The cubs had lived. That was all that mattered to her. The ship landed with a metallic groan. The cargo ramp lowered, revealing a landscape of purple grass and twisted trees beneath an orange sky. Thexus removed her cuffs and gestured toward the opening. "Survive if you can, human. The planet will provide basic sustenance. Or it will not. That is no longer my concern." Kaylin walked down the ramp without looking back. The ship lifted off moments later, leaving her alone in the alien wilderness. She took a deep breath, tasting the strange air. It was breathable, at least. She had survived worse. She began walking, searching for water and shelter. The first day passed in exploration. The second day, she found a cave near a stream. The third day, she heard the crying. The sound was high-pitched and desperate, coming from a thicket of thorny bushes. Kaylin pushed through carefully, finding a small clearing where 6 small creatures huddled together. They were cubs, clearly abandoned or lost. Their fur was matted and dirty, their large eyes filled with fear. The species was unfamiliar to her, but their distress was universal. One cub, slightly larger than the others, stepped forward. His amber eyes met hers with a mixture of defiance and hope. He made a series of clicking sounds, his small clawed hands gesturing frantically. "Hey, it's okay," Kaylin said softly, kneeling down. "I'm not going to hurt you." The larger cub tilted his head, studying her. After a long moment, he approached cautiously. Kaylin remained still, letting him sniff her outstretched hand. The cub made a different sound, softer this time. The others slowly emerged from their huddle. Kaylin spent the next days earning their trust. She shared the edible plants she had identified, showed them how to fish in the stream using her hands, and kept them warm at night by building fires. The cubs learned quickly. The larger one, whom she began calling Vash after the clicking sound he made most often, became her constant companion. Vash was intelligent. He watched everything Kaylin did with intense focus, then attempted to replicate her actions. When she wove grass into a basket, he gathered materials and tried to copy her movements. When she sharpened a stone into a cutting tool, he found his own stone and worked at it until his small hands bled. "Slow down," Kaylin said gently, taking the stone from him. She wrapped his injured hands with soft leaves. "We have time. You don't need to hurt yourself." But Vash was determined. The other cubs followed his example, and soon they were all participating in the daily tasks. Kaylin taught them to build better shelters, to preserve food, to create simple tools. She drew pictures in the dirt to communicate concepts, and Vash began drawing back. Weeks turned into months. The settlement grew. What had started as a single cave became a cluster of sturdy structures made from woven branches and mud. Kaylin showed the cubs how to farm, planting seeds from the fruits they had gathered. Vash organized the other cubs into working groups, assigning tasks based on each individual's strengths. One evening, as Kaylin sat by the fire, Vash approached with something in his hands. It was a carved piece of wood, roughly shaped but unmistakably intentional. He had carved it into a figure that looked like Kaylin, with another smaller figure beside it that represented himself. "For you," Vash said in halting but clear universal standard that Kaylin's eyes widened. "You can speak." Vash's ears flattened with embarrassment. "Learning. You teach. I learn." Over the following months, all the cubs began speaking. They absorbed language like sponges, practicing constantly among themselves. Their settlement expanded further. They built a communal hall, storage buildings, and even a primitive irrigation system for their growing fields. Vash became their leader in truth, coordinating construction projects and resolving disputes. But he always deferred to Kaelin for guidance, treating her not as a ruler but as a teacher and mother. The 20th cycle arrived faster than Kaelin had expected. She stood at the edge of their settlement, now a thriving village, watching the cubs work. They had developed their own culture, blending what she had taught them with their own instincts and creativity. They sang while they worked, creating harmonies that echoed through the valley that a familiar whine cut through the air. Kaelin looked up to see a transport ship descending. Warden Thexus had returned. The ship landed at the village's edge. Thexus emerged, his mandibles hanging open in shock. He stared at the organized community, the cultivated fields, the cubs moving with purpose and cooperation. "What is this?" he demanded. "This planet was empty. You were alone." "I was never alone," Kaelin replied calmly. "I found them abandoned. We survived together." Vash stepped forward, standing beside Kaelin. He had grown considerably, now reaching her shoulder. The other cubs gathered behind him, forming a protective semicircle. "She is ours," Vash said clearly in universal standard. "She stays, or we all go." Thexus looked from the defiant cubs to the impossible village they had built. His protocols had no provision for this. He had sentenced a human to isolation, and she had created a civilization instead. "Your sentence is complete," Thexus said finally, his voice tight. "You may leave." "I'm staying," Kaelin said without hesitation. "This is my home now." Vash's ears lifted with joy. He took Kaelin's hand in his clawed one, and together they watched the Warden's ship lift off and disappear into the orange sky. The village had work to do, and they would do it together.